Hello everyone, this is Sam Philosopher and I want to talk about something that we're um that we are it's been discussed and I say the media is doing a great disservice and it's my it's my pet peeve, my huge pet peeve um when we start talking about the federal budget because so much assumptions are wrong. So much. Uh, um, i if we compare it to to a business budget or a family budget, we it's completely out of touch to reality when we talk about um, the federal budget, and it's this um, the type of language that's used that to scare people that that specifically I'm talking about the Trump budget and um, and you already heard about it. It's gonna cut Medicare, Medicaid. It's gonna and the usual talking point is it's an immoral budget. Um, and oh, it's not compassionate. Um, but before I get into the details of the Trump budget, um, I want to put some assumption the mm, um, put my because when we talk about facts, um, it's important that we understand what assumptions or what biases are we bringing to the table. Like, for example, um, uh, uh, the carbon dating or fossil. If you have an assumption that we man are here by evolution, then your assumptions will change versus if you think that that the earth was created by a supreme deity being. All right, and talking about the federal budget, here is the assumption, or the worldview. If your worldview the that the if the government is not funding something or is not taking care of something, then somehow if you do not support government funding for something, then you are somehow eliminated that funding or that program or says whatever it may be that you don't want it. Um, uh, um, and your assumption is that government should be providing these things, for example, education or what have you. It's the government's job to um, uh, take care of old people or provide for the people who don't have enough to eat. So if your assumption um, is is that, then I can see where you're coming from. Um, um, my assumption is that um, it's an, it's not the government's job to provide for my neighbor. It's not the government's to be the daddy or mommy. It's my job. It's my responsibility. And 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 the more private charities and and the fact that I don't want, for example, food stamps. It doesn't mean I want hungry people to die. That um, um I must I support pantries and I try to do what my part to when I can to give money to food and I just I don't my assumption is that the government shouldn't be in the charity of first resort. The reason being is that people once that happens people become um, use government as a crutch and they never get up their own 2 feet and what was that if that crutch is pulled from them then they fall on the floor because they don't they they know that's what they're used to. That's what they depend on. So that's the discussion. The discussion is whether the government or private funds should take care of that of people need. That being said, what's being said of Trump's budget is way over the top. So, all right. Um, I'm just gonna go over the numbers. Okay, all right. Reductions, budget reductions. All right. Um, uh, non-defense spending programs with 1.4 billion dollars. In Medicaid, in children's health program, the reduction of $6.616 billion. Claims for fundings in war fund, the reduction is 593. Savings on the interest, so that the reduction on payments of meaning reduce payments of interest on student debt um, is for 143 billion dollars. Well, reductions on welfare programs, $272 billion. Aurora can be repealed, 250 $250 billion. Others, um, so um, I just put on just spotted a lot of numbers, and it's important to put a distinction when I say reduction. Um, it is important that I say um, I don't necessarily mean a straight cut reduction at at least Medicaid and other programs, the version will be um, rejudged in the growth of spending. Means, let's say, if I plan on spending 11% um, of the federal budget, and um, and I decided to spend 9% of the federal budget. Um, well, I'm still mm, I'm still spending um, um, on something. It's not a cut like we would say we need to cut um, 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 going out. That means you don't spend. We're still spending more. Um, we just don't spend as much, and and you got to understand for government accounting, they they don't measure budgeting like the private sector. The For them, budgeting is which programs uh, receive this amount of funding, this amount of spending, um, or that amount of spending. It is it doesn't um, the main the main um, calculation of of programs is not how much um, necessarily um, you, you're making versus how much it's being spent. The main program is where are where those dollars being spent on, because obviously the income will come the income of the federal budget of the federal government is a combination of taxes versus and debt, and we have certainly um, our credit is so huge that that the 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 politicians think we spend and not worry about it. In fact, the the can in Kantian economics, um, some people say that you, in order to make the economy grow, you need to spend money. In other words, what drives demand is government spending. So government spending is a good thing. So any cut in government spending is seen as bad. So that's why when people say, "Oh, you're reducing Medicaid funding by $6.616 billion," oh man, that's killing babies or old people. Um, that's 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 skewing because it's just reduced and how much money i- is going to those programs. That those programs are not being eliminated altogether. And um, if you want to be realistic, I want to be real. The once you include mandatory spending, which is Medicare, Medicaid, and Social Security, those entitled parent progress is our 56, 53% of the budget. So we are spending half of our budget on on type of programs. So I don't see this with this hysteria where unless you pretend these monetary spending doesn't exist and all you care about is that uh, is discretionary. But we still and uh, and keep in mind mandatory spending are spending that cannot be touched, and you can't necessarily you what I mean is um, these funding are already at the beginning of the fiscal year. They are already it's a it's a it's a done deal. There's no debate on these programs. So and the rest of the discretionary problems, the 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 lawmakers can say we should fund this and we could, but the mandatory are no are not debated. They're already set aside, and that's why I believe when we talk about the federal budget, we're not being honest of how much we are spending, especially when it comes to entitlement programs. If I were to run my house like the federal budget, like the federal government budget, runs its house with its budget, then then I will be, uh, I would say half of my money. Oh, we're not gonna touch half. That is um we're not gonna reform it. We're not gonna do anything. That's gonna kill me. If I will go bankrupt in less than a year or so. Um, I just wanted to give you that perspective. God bless you.